joined us here, also a friend of Daddy Lumba, to help us celebrate the legend. And Kofi, Honorable is here.
Yes, Honorable.
Good morning. How are you?
Kumantes here. Should we introduce you as executive producer of Sleep Entertainment? Or we say former Deputy Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture.
Or a prince from the Eastern region.
I think the Sleep Entertainment works,
Okay.
For the kind of conversation we're having, because he's being a music producer. We know him. He has a history of many of the songs that we've been talking about. Mark, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
I mean, before we get into everything, I was asking Apietus earlier how he heard the news, and he talks about how he was asleep and his brother woke him up. How did you hear the news? How did it get to you?
Okay. Saturday morning, I have these usual phone calls I have with, I often do with Kwame Sifakai. So I called him in the morning to tease him about he and the Samij and Fee conversation and how things are unfolding and all of that. So Kwame, after our long conversation, we all moved on to our usual Saturday moves. And then after an hour, Kwame called me back, which was unusual of him. After a long talk, why would Kwame call me back? He said, Unia, we didn't simple. Na Yembra Lumba. So yeah. So okay. You know Kwame is a Kwapem, so we speak a Kwapem. So I'm trying to sound like him. So I exclaimed for, I cannot recollect the number of seconds, but I knew I was loud, but the number of seconds I cannot recollect. So Kwame went silent for some time. And then we went off the phone. So I called and I sent a message to Andy Dosty. Andy said it was not true, but he has information that, because he had spoken with the driver or something who said that he was fine, but they took him to the bank hospital the night before and he was fine. So I said, well, that is what we want to hear. So if it is fine, then we do not need to continue with any other conversation. So waiting to hear, especially with the Daddy Lumba, who has been killed so many times. And so if you hear something like this, history only repeating itself. And then, but again, for a Kwame Sifakai, the stature of the person who called me, I wasn't still comfortable, because those of us from the old school journalism background, we do not just speak and then it will be wrong. Credibility is a big deal. And for him to call me, he knows I'll hold him accountable in future. So he will not call me and tell me a lie. So I was in the middle, in a mix, a fix. I do not know what to do. And then a few hours later, it came out that I called him Brad Charles. Brad Charles was gone. Yeah. So that's how I got to know.
Okay. Let me also say that we've been joined by Ace Ankuma. Ace Ankuma is a lawyer you know, but I'm sure you probably would also know that he's a member of the Joyful Way Incorporated, having composed songs for them. He plays the guitar very well. Ace, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Great. So let's do it this way. And I've been, reading. I read your post and how you talked about the lyrics of Daddy Lumba and how philosophical they were. For you as a lawyer and also as a musician, what will be your fondest memories of the man whom you've described as very philosophical?
Well, he had a way of saying what he wanted to say without saying it expressly. So you find a lot of winks and nods and, wise sayings in his music. So he was a lyrical person, and you could see that his songs were thought through and then produced. I think that there are quite a few and not too many musicians whose lyrics will set you thinking. You might just dance to the music and move on. But what he had was that whatever he was saying, whether you agreed with him or not, he put it in very wise saying that made you think a little bit more than you would usually think. That is why I consider him a philosopher.
But there are those who would also, talking about how he would craft the lyrics and the things he wanted to say, there are those who had difficulty with some of his lyrics. For instance, when he dropped songs like Abengwaha and Dr. Panye, and I know parents who forbid their children from buying those cassettes unless it was being played on radio.
Hello.
Yes, Ace, can you hear me?
Well, of course. I mean, he was a whole act. I think that Lumba had a love me, love my dog philosophy, that he will say what he wants to say. But in the years that I've listened to him, I have never heard him utter a profanity expressly. And I think that's what people are talking about. I'm not here to defend what he says. I'm saying that his craft was to weave it in wise cracks. We are taught when we learn to speak the language that he mostly performed in, Akan, that through proverbs and byword and what they call enyensen, you will say what you have to say without being expressly, if you like, using words that might offend other people. And so, like I said, you might agree with what he's saying or disagree with what he's saying. But at the end of the day, he makes you think. Look, if Lumba says something like, if the thing is being sold from a height, how would the tortoise acquire it? It makes you sit. The language is graphic. The literary device he's deploying makes you sit and think that the tortoise cannot jump. So if the thing is being sold above, the tortoise cannot reach it, right? And so he was a full and complete act, and you didn't have to agree with him all the time, but you can't deny his immense talent. Look, in the history of this nation, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't consider myself a musician, I think I'm a music hobbyist, there has been nobody more prolific than him in terms of the number of songs he released since he came out, I believe, late 80s. He was prolific. Now, if you know what goes into producing one song, from when you get the idea, till you start writing, till you put the music to it, then you go to a studio and hire the studio, pay, they charge you per song, you bring in the musicians, each of them will charge you, they play lines that you don't like, you have to go and do corrections, then you do mixing and mastering, and if you see that effort repeated several times in the songs, you will appreciate what that man has done for Ghana's music history.
Let me just bring in Apietus at this point. I'll get back to you shortly, Ace, because Apietus, you've produced songs for him, so you would better understand how working with him. Tell us, I mean, the period that you worked with him on his songs, what was the experience like?
Well, I mean, Daddy Lumba is one artist who knows what he wants, so it's easy working with him because Mark is there. He will tell you if the artist, you have to show him almost everything. It's difficult. It's very difficult. Sing it like this. Don't do this. Don't do that. No, go like this. It makes the job difficult, because you want the best out of the artist. But Daddy Lumba usually is ready to go. So just with a few touches, he's doing the work. He will come. He has sung the song. So the melody line is there, the composition is set, then you follow up and then you do it. So it makes the job easy. Working with him was easy. I mean, I remember one time he had a beat I was playing and he said, I like this beat. Whose beat is that? And I said, oh, I usually make the beats and sell them to the artist. So I like this beat, I want to buy it. And then I gave him the beat. He went home, came, and then the song was a banger. That was Stockroom. So you hear him saying, the tools hardcore, already made. That means Apietu's hardcore beat was already made, and then he put his voice on it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm thinking, if 3 days he had already written the song, or he wrote the song in 3, because the beat was new, yet what he put on the beat became a banger. You know what I'm saying? So that should tell you what that guy can do. And he told me that was one of the first things he did. Because usually he would sing his song and then you play the beat accordingly. But this one worked and it was a big hit. So working with him was easy. It was professional. He knew what he wanted, so he won't suffer too much.
Mm.
And we really lost a gem.
We are told that you had a Lumba law in your studio, and our friend that have co-wrote this on Saturday morning, even before the news came out that Lumba had passed. He wrote that, I've been running through some records today, and damn, that 2005-2010 Apietu's golden era was a crazy time in Ghanaian music. You could walk into that Dansuman house and not come out for 3 days. Booking was being used, yes, but there were times availability mattered more. And it was only through that some Meba Hache favor could find you. So you had to always be present. You'd be waiting for your turn and Apietus would pop out and say, "You, enter the studio." That simple line could change your whole life. But then again, if that Lumba walked in, the whole house would reset. Even the chickens in the compound would be told, "Go and come tomorrow." It wasn't disrespect, it was the Lumba law. Everyone knew it.
Yeah. I had influx. At some point, Okrekumante even became the guy who was managing it for me. Even that did not work. So it wasn't like a Lumba law, it was respect the artist gave him. There was a point where I was working with some guys and they said, "No, Master, they do agree." I think A+ was part of them. They said, "Don't go home, don't do their work." They don't care if it's Lumba, but they went outside, we were talking about it. I came inside. When I went there, the guys were not there. Then, what are they? He said, "Oh, the guys are gone." So then I worked with Lumba. Later on, when I met the guys, I asked them, "So what happened?" They said, "Oh, Lumba sought them out, so they went home." I said, "Oh, you boys took bribe." So you see, that's the thing. Lumba, he will not really book. He will get the idea in his house. And he knows Apia has to do this for me, and then he will drive straight to the studio. Because he knows if he calls me, I'll tell him, "Oh, no, he doesn't want that. He's in his element, he wants to work." And usually most of the artists will give the respect and let him work. So that's the level of legendary status we are talking about.
A lot of us have struggled to define who Lumba is. Some people say he's a legendary musician. Some people, Mark, how do we define Lumba? From what I said, Lumba is not just an ordinary person. I say he's a god, but you have done this for years. You know the man. You've seen him. You've worked with him. How do we define Lumba, and how do we situate him for future generations, not to lose out on this gift that God gave Africa and the world?
Okay, Lumba, I'm not sure anybody in the industry can say that I really know him. No. I want to see that person who will come out and say, Apietus will talk about the studio sessions. Of the studio sessions, you won't know Lumba. So, even me, I'll be very careful with what I say about him, because I only know him from the professional level, work. Off work, he is a love me, hate me character. I'm sure people who have worked with him, who have heard very good things about him right now, some of them are also saying, "Is it the same Lumba you are talking about?" Because if he has to be tough and rough, he can be. And he can be extremely nice. I'm sure you saw his last performance when he was calling people to come on stage, and he's always thanking people. His last comment that he made on his own radio station was, "Makramo, that was his last line on his own radio station. And he said this Makramo on the BBGJ album when I just completed St. Augustine's. So his way of thinking, I mentioned on Adoma FM on Saturday that he is an eccentric performer. And most great performers I'm sure you all know Prince, Michael Jackson are eccentric. You need that level of mind to be able to become as great as they become. So it's difficult to understand such people. They are not, I mean, have you seen that Lumba's expression? I remember when I was having a conversation with him and said that, I like Makramo. That's my favorite song from you. That was when he was working with Apietus. Because like Apietus said, I became a studio manager by force, booking. So I was holding the book and Lumba came around. I said, my favorite song is Makramo. And then he said, why do you like Makramo? Then I said that, one, I'd listened to him from Eaka Quintium when he was sounding like Akwesiampo Fweje. Then, so over time, I got to know that his role model was Akwesiampo Fweje, because they all came from, or they come from, Asante Mampong, where when Ampofweje was rehearsing as a band, he would come from school and go and stand there and look at admire Ampofweje, and then he picked the soul of Ampofweje's vocal delivery. So if you listen to Eaka Quintium, Obiatum Sobo, he sounded like Ampofweje. And then I think he has some softness for one musician Ghana is underrated, or nobody really is discussing, but he has influenced a lot of people. Adumaku Nyameche. Adumaku Nyameche has influenced people like Oheneba Kisi, even Lumba. Most of the lines that you hear at the tail end as he does, ow, most of the endings that is ow, ow, is from Adumaku Nyameche. And Lumba himself has said it that one musician he admires most is Adumaku Nyameche. So he started sounding like Adumaku Nyameche. So by the time he got to Makramo, Bodo Stega had changed his sound. The Makramo album is the BBJJ album. And then when he did the vocal, apart from the composition, I am not a composition as in lyrics person. Because for music producers, we listen to package. We only want to sell and make the money. Kwesichum. Orientation. Yes. So, Kwesichum orientation. So we want to make money. So we are interested in marketing. But if you listen to the production and how he did the vocal delivery, he sang it like somebody who was standing by a dead body and was crying and was mourning himself. So if you listen to the song today, you see he sang the song mourning himself whilst he was alive. So when I told him, this man, after all the good things I've said about his song, no emotions. Yes, he cannot even celebrate his own hard work, even if you tell him. He will just look at your face as if that nothing is happening. That is Lumba for you. So anyone in the industry, have you ever seen Lumba at a funeral before?
I haven't.
Correct. That is Lumba for you. So he even mentioned on his channel, his own radio station, that people think, they say all sorts of things about him, but because he's a home kind of person, people do not know him. He mentioned it himself. And it's true. The industry that he played in, or he operated in, only knew his professional side. Even that.
True.
How many times would you see Lumba? He will live in Germany. But then he has this nice side. I mean, someone like me, he was one of my motivators. My first motivator will always be Kusichum. Always. Second, one man who said something to me that he doesn't even know went into my soul, an ex-chemist. One day I was on Joyce Low Jam in the Asempa room, and then somebody enters the studio and said, I had a call, intercom. I don't know if you still use your intercom here. Yeah, and said, Papa She is looking for you. And as a performer, he was a friend to the brand. So I said, let him in. He came and said, Bra Charles is here. He wants to see you. At the time, I didn't know who Bra Charles was. So I want Bra Charles. So they young call. So I trusted Papa She, asked somebody to sit in for me. I think it was Cox or somebody. And then I went out. At the time, it wasn't Societe Generale, it was SSB. A car, fresh CLK, silver color, sports, red seats, open, convertible. Yeah. So I could see the seat and everything. And this man came out with some fine perfume, everything over him. Lumba. 11 p.m. What is he looking for? He had just come from Germany. And at the time, it was March, April, thereabout. I had released Kokoko. And he had done Abenwaha in December. And he wanted to just come and tell me that I have done well. And that is why. So he told Papa Shi to bring him to me to see the young. He said that there was this small boy who produced Dasre Jamna. He didn't know Dasre Jamna. Wanted to know who Dasre was. Where is he? I said, oh, he lived behind Joy FM. And I'm also here. Me too, I'm here. At the time, I was driving in the Sun Central. So you see my eye was in the CLK. You know. Relatively, you could tell that Charlie gap home. Straight. How many people do this? How many people who do this? That he just wants to come to that small boy at Joy FM who had recorded a song called. And I remember what he said. He said that it wasn't easy for any young man like Dasre Jamna to join the squad. I said, which squad? He said, Kojentri, Amachi Dede, Nana Tufo, Nana Champon, himself. And then he brought the Rex Umans and Manzebas. He said that you needed to record from big studios in the West. Because he used to record from Germany, Bodostega. But we did a Ghana recording from Zab Mallet. And the sound was so good. And that is why he had come to tell me that I should keep it up. He wanted to meet that separate before he left. So I was motivated that, hey, Lumba looking for me to come and say my idea. It was a big deal for me. And he did that to a lot of young men. Felix Owusu. He sang a whole song. People think Famin Kujame is a Lumba song on a Lumba album. No. Famin Kujame is a song he sang full song and put on Felix Owusu's album.
Yeah.
Album called Vida. Just because he wanted to help the young man. Honorable Kisi also did one on that album. I'm saying all these things for the young ones to learn how the music industry had survived over the years through some of these people like Daddy Lumba. You can have your own issues with them, yes. I've told you they are eccentric. The Prince, he can change his name from Prince to artist formerly known as Prince. Later on he said he was called the Symbol. He didn't even have a name. That is how great people in the arts most of the time they come across. So we take them like that. We take them like that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get back to you. I mean, you've talked about the people that he helped. It's a conversation we must have also because beyond Felix Owusu, the other person many people remember is Borax. But before Borax, he had a lot of people also. We'll get into all of that with Mark Okre-Kumante. But let's wrap it up with Apietus and Ace Ankoma. So Ace Ankoma, you've talked about a man who was philosophical. Going forward for you, what do you think should be done in honor of this man that we are all celebrating today? Hello, Ace?
Ace, can you hear us?
Oh, hi. Okay, yes, the line is very terrible.
We can hear you. Your end is clear, so go ahead.
Okay, I have the question now. There's a slight delay on the line. Okay, look, I think that in one of the schools I ever attended somewhere else, they have a course on Taylor Swift, which is a course in the linguistics department about the language and the message that she's used to hit the highs that she's hit. There's also a course on Taylor Swift in the Faculty of Law in that university to study her contractual history. I think that Lumba ought to be studied by our linguistic department on the tens of songs that he wrote and see how he deployed literary devices. But I'll say one last thing and then I can run. And Apietus, greetings to you. I don't think we've met. But with geniuses like Apietus and Bodostega behind Lumba, he exploited something I call the loop, where the full music is just about 4 bars with little variations. The changes are in what the Lumba says and sings. So if you're going to listen to a Lumba song and you are expecting some mixolydian skill or some bebop, you're not going to find it. It's a very simple, catchy loop. And by the time you listen to those 4 bars throughout the song, the music is stuck in your head and is never going away. And they deploy that very effectively in Lumba song. Look, the first time I noticed Lumba, was that he was the first person, and that was even Lumba Brothers, when I think he sang Obiatimisobo with Nane Champon. And he used a conga as an interlude instrument. Now, the music hobby is, if there's an interlude, I'm expecting a guitar, a saxophone, or trumpet. He didn't delve into those things. It was a simple conga, two-note conga interlude. And it's so effective that when people sing the song and they get to the interlude, they sing the conga with their lips. And so I think that there's a lot to be discovered about, first, who he was, two, why he did what he did, three, the language and literary devices that he deployed, and four, his music style. And I'll add one, his vocal dexterity. Lumba sings somewhere between his natural voice and the falsetto. And I'm not sure whether he's actually singing the falsetto or his own voice. I suspect that in the studio, and I suspect Apietus and others were behind it, they will push him to the highest key that he can sing, so that he gets a lot of expression both to the right, to the higher notes, and then he can settle on the lower side of the scale as well. And so let me say that yes, he's a phenom, and let me repeat that I think that we need to examine his literary skill and his musicianship and generally who he was. And with that, I'm done. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, A. Sankuma, for making time to join us this morning here on the Super Morning Show, which means we can bring in Apietus briefly, because Ace has ended on a note that says maybe Apietus, and Budu Steiger were pushing. Apietus, maybe it's confession time. Tell us what you did in the studio with him.
Make a hit. Look at the artist, study the voice, the kind of key he can sing that will resonate more, with the kind of instrument you are giving him, that will bring his voice out. So, once the artist enters the studio, you try multiple keys, maybe A, C, C sharp, E flat. You are trying all the keys to, he works around this area very well, then you know what to do. And what kind of instrument will not struggle with his voice, because he had a lot of, made in his voice, around the 8K, 5K, kilohertz. He had that in his voice. Naturally, God gave him that. So you have to study and know that if I use instruments that sound the same, or elements in a song that sound around that frequency, they will crash. They won't work. So you needed to use more mild, instruments for him, and then when his voice was not there, you could put something, So these were the things something a producer and a technical producer and a sound engineer will know. And these are the things we do for him, because it's technical. Because, like the man said, he sings head voices, the falsettos, and then he sings chest voices, So you will see that he's singing his regular voice, but that's the chest voice. And then he will go into the falsetto, and at any point in time he can just move and go and come back. That's what made him unique. So his voice was very dynamic, and you needed to study where and where he's doing what, and what instrument should be muted at what point in the song, to allow him to be, to stand out more. So Charlie, we have lost somebody who had some skill, man, and I don't know how he got it. But like Okreku said, he has been listening a lot, and that's how you're able to do a lot. Because when you listen a lot, you are widely listened. Believe me, you'll be able to do a lot. And I think Lumba really studied this craft and did it well. And I will say wherever he is, God should keep him. That's what I have to say. And I want to also say the family should be strong. The wife should be strong. It's not easy to lose a man of Lumba's status.
Thank you.
God keep him.
Thank you very, very much, Apietus, for making time to join us this morning. Of course, Apia Dankwa, Apietus, and we all know him. He's told us about the Tokrom. But Apietus, before you go, so apart from Tokrom, which other song did you have to, produce the beat and then Lumba bought from you?
Oh, most of it we did a remix he had already done, like the one with Ochame Kwame.
Yeah.
Main said that was also a remix. Then he did other songs like Impin.
Sika.
Yeah, we did other songs. We did even the political song for His Excellency, former President Nana Akufo-Addo. We did a lot. If you go on my page on Facebook, I've actually posted when we were recording that song for His Excellency.
Yeah, I've seen
You
that.
know, so yeah, and believe it, that man is
Apia.
good. Working with him is exciting. I mean,
Apia.
I suggest something and it's
Is my
good. He picks
microphone
it
off?
up straight.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes he will be singing. I'll be making that my language
Apia.
with melodies. Yeah,
Apietus, Mark is asking you a question. Yes.
Please,
Yeah.
you forgot one. The favorite of the
Yes.
whole job you did with Lumba, my favorite was Sika.
yeah, Sika.
Yes.
You know, yeah. The songs there, I don't have the list in front of me now, but we did a lot of songs. I think we did like 2 albums. You know, and back then albums were like 10 songs per album.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but Lumba, he can do 5 songs. So the songs I will do it for him, and he will release only 5. Those days, nobody was doing EP. Lumba was doing EP. He can release just 5 songs or 6. Then he will come and release the rest later. You know.
And what is
All
interesting
was
for
from
me
marketing strategies.
is how Apietus worked with Lumba, moved on to work with Oforian Ponsa, and carried on.
No, I
the
was
hits.
working with Oframposa before Lumba
Yeah,
came.
and you put the two together in a very beautiful way, and that sound at a point became your signature sound. And
Yeah.
Charlie, we've lost though. I mean, I think we should just put up a museum or a shrine on top of that Tria Mountain somewhere to celebrate Lumba. You know,
Why Atria Mountains?
that's in this area, the Insuta Mampong area. That's where the mountains are, and you know, and you be Charlie. We rename some airport or something after the man, because this legacy must not die with him. He's done so much, and you see, as the world changes and culture changes and culture evolves, if we don't take care, we may lose this, and this is something that we must keep for like Charlie.
Posterity's sake.
Charles Kojofosu. I drove through his hometown over the weekend, just to hear this man.
I see.
Anyway,
Anyway.
Apia, that's it.
And
Yo, Madam Krasi.
let's bring Mark in. Mark, so you were making a point earlier. I want us to delve into that now. I want us to get deeper into, the legacy. And Apietus just talked about the production aspect. Now, there are a lot of people that Daddy Lumba is, mentored. A lot of musicians that actually had their first experience on professional work with Daddy Lumba. When we return after these messages, we're going to be getting into that particular conversation here with Mark Okrekumante as we mourn Daddy Lumba, who passed on over the weekend. We'll be right back.
I warned you.
Some classes, Lumba classes. When Ace was talking about the fact that we need to study Lumba in school, it reminded me of our com skills classes at KNUST. Our boss at Entebben was fresh, and it was part of the poems that we learnt in school. And I remember Mrs. Ace would call me and say, "Hey, FM boy," because I was then a DJ. Come and sing the song. And it will be great to have a course on Lumba. Not just the music, but the man, the icon, what he meant for even the Ghanaian economy. Because when they were in Germany and there was a bit of instability, the Burger High Life actually held down the Ghanaian music space for a very long time. And we need to do it, and people like you should push it.
Okay, I think when I was in office, as in government office, I started the museum conversation for the arts industry. I remember Charterhouse came to see my boss, Honorable Ejapa Mesa, so they could discuss, because they wanted a space from government to put up a museum. But they wanted to do music museum. Generally, I think we, as the industry, needs it. This whole Bodo State Gat concept and Ghana, the Burger High Life thing, the root is actually Chasama. So you cannot celebrate a Lumba without Chasama. you hear that Lumba would mention Madam Sinini and Nampedu. He has a song that he mentions in Nampedu. Ankwanoma. Yeah. Okay. He looks up to Nampedu. So Nampedu, Lumba is the greatest of our time because of our age. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure my father's greatest would be Nampedu.
Yeah.
So at the same time, do you celebrate Lumba? Do you build a museum for Lumba and leave the Nampedu? And I have the plan for Nampedu's museum in Kwahu. Mm-hmm. I have the architecture drawing on my phone. The Kwahu mine and the people in Kwahu wanted to build a museum for the Nampedu, which is also fine. But can we be building museum for each person? I do not think that for the government viewpoint, it should be a general museum where you have maybe a department. You enter this side, it's Lumba. You enter that side, or this side is high life. This side is hip life. This side is film.
Gospel.
That's a huge building that has almost everything in there. So everyone could be celebrated. George Darko. I mean, if you pick a song like Menobegro from Charles Samoa, the guitar works in that song. It's from George Darko.
Nana George Darko.
Yes. So, Dada KD. Dada KD is actually a clone version of Lumba.
Yeah.
Dada KD. If you listen to Dada KD very well, you will see that when Lumba used to do songs like Sise will say.
Dada
KD did Edinyao.
True.
Ekutia time. Yes.
Ekutia Pro Max.
Yes, that time it was Ekutia. When Lumba changed and changed the hair to braid, Dada KD went to braid. Dada KD went to Germany because Lumba is in Germany. Record with Bodostega, so Dada KD recorded with Bodostega. Almost every step that Lumba took, Dada KD followed. And that is why we should be careful with. And so you notice that when Lumba swayed into his motivational kind of lyrics, Abrabomu Nsem, all of that, to Abenwaha, Dada KD also switched to suggestive lyrics. Kotia and Kamedi.
Data God's favorite Dada KD song.
Okay. So if today some of these young ones who spew out some of these raw lyrics that are not good for our children, if Dada KD alone could clone himself to become a Lumba, do you know how many children who are cloning to Bisako there?
But let me just ask you this question before we speak to Kwabena Kwabena, who's joined us on the phone. Kwabena, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.
Great. Get to you shortly, but Mark.
Yeah.
So Yaosechi says that yes, Daddy Lumba sings and there's a debate about the lyrics, what he says and what he didn't say. Please ask Mark what that was all about, marketing strategy, or he just couldn't mention the words properly. He was a rare breed, like Ace said. He has to be studied, maybe, and he said you add that we should get him a music museum. I want to understand the question because if you listen to Poison, you can see he's trying to say something, but he's not saying it. Was it part of the marketing strategy?
Yes, it is a way of selling music. It brings discussion. It brings talkability around the music and the brand. That was what it was the same strategy Bullet took for Ebony. Yes, Dada KD also used it. They play around the words. You can think for them in that direction, but I didn't say it. It is not explicit. Moses, E.B. Krenzel, another deep writing. He's talking about how the turntable works with two speakers, left and right, stereo. You understand? With stylus on the vinyl. Very creative, not explicit. Kojonchi, pour some sugar. It's not raw. So, you know how Abenwa became a hit? It's actually also for Usansa who made that song. There's the history behind Abenwa. When the album came out, it wasn't too hot. Then also Sansa came on Joy FM to preach one dawn and said, this, that. So he actually put spotlight on the song. Then everybody wanted to hear the song. And when you listen to the song, he said, you decided that moving on, he will not talk about any song again.
Oh, I see. let's bring in Kwabena Kwabena.
Kwabena, good morning.
Good morning.
I know this is not a happy morning for you, and this is a difficult conversation to have on radio, but and you worked with Lumba as well. You idolized him. Yes, your one of your mentors is gone. How did you hear the news, and how have you been since?
Good morning to your listeners, and good morning to my senior brother, Honorable Makukuku Manjo. It wasn't such a pleasant news. And it's been very difficult because Papa, as we all affectionately call him, it's been a papa. It's been a papa too. I mean, a lot of us. My first encounter with him was when I think in 2006, after a year of release of Aso, and he actually loved my song Asa so much. So I think he was speaking to me about speaking to me with one of his boys, Kofi Stone, I remember, who used to work with him for Yamponsa a lot. And I lived at St. John's, and he used to live at Tantra Hill. So one morning, Kofi Stone just came to my house and told me that, hey, Lumba show. So I told him that, okay. Anytime I'm ready. So he actually arranged the meeting, and that was the first time around 2006. He took me to his house and I met him. He was so in awe of me, my little contribution at the time, and how he encouraged me to do more. His one of the advice I can remember was he told me, you are as good as your last hit. That's what Daddy Lumba told me. Yeah, and after that time, he's been a father. Like, I could just give him a ring, and apart from anything, everybody knows how difficult it is to get through to him. But when you do get through to him and he gives you an appointment, he will be right there waiting for you. And we've lost such a great treasure.
Okay, but I mean, Kwabena, since you worked with him, I just would want to find out from you finally your studio encounter. So that song that you were on, when you were working on that song, how was the feeling like working with Daddy Lumba?
There will be a Sobo remix.
Yeah.
Wow. The professional he is when it comes to music, he knew that to get the best out of every composer or every musician, the person needs to be in some form of privacy. So he actually gave me a ring and told me that he's got a song at a British studio. I should just go and listen to it and see what I can do. So the day I went to record, he wasn't in the studio.
Okay.
But apparently, he was monitoring. He was in conversation with Apietis whilst we were working. I had no idea. So Apietis will speak to him whenever I'm in the vocal booth doing my thing. So after recording, I think the next day is when he called again and he was like, oh, wow, I love what you did. And you have no idea the strength it gave me.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
Daddy Lumba says, oh, I mean, it's a great loss, but we celebrate a great father, a great legend, and a great artist by all standards.
All right. Thank you very much, Kwabena Kwabena, for making time to join us this morning here on the Super Morning Show. So, Mark, you're talking about the samples, and this message, says that, good morning, Winston. I'm engineer Kwasin Dadze, and I'm reaching you from Takrady. Please get your DJ to play Bobby Brown's Good Enough and Daddy Lumba's and Semiding.
I gave it to you.
Yeah, you gave it to us. Mark Okrekumanto, you gave it to us. And a lot of your messages, a lot of them. If I say I'm going to start reading, my goodness. We have just 5 minutes to go. So I think we'll give the final one to Mark. He will tell us, some of the artists we do not know, passed through the hands of Daddy Lumba. But Mark, yesterday we were having a conversation, you and I was talking about listening to Daddy Lumba in an interview where, they asked him about Aseho, Borax and all of that. Borax was trying to defend Aseho. He was going to marriage certificate, you sign under. Then when they got to Lumba, Lumba said, "Why would you know what is your understanding? What would you know what
Yes.
No.
Don't forget, we had campaigned with that line to win an election.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So the first thing that comes to mind is politics.
And then he says, "Oh, you know what I'm saying? That's all sign was come on. That's all sign was." Then he moves on. But in that interview, he said, after Borax, there was another young person he was going to come out with. But I didn't hear that. I'm sure you know that young person.
Yes.
Who was that?
OD4.
Okay.
At the time, I was producing OD4. So we met in Apeti's studio. So he expressed interest in. That time, OD4 had done a feature for Eracy Jijim. So,
okay.
Yes, so he liked OD4. I think he had a thing for the Raga because even Borax is from that group.
And the Jijim is the same lady that he did which one with?
No, he didn't do any job with Eracy.
Okay.
That's a Fiampo for.
Okay, that's
Jijihun.
Yeah, that's Jijihun.
Yes. Yeah. So let me talk about those he worked with. After the Vida, Felix Owusu. He did. There's one that I've seen that nobody is talking about. Do you know one musician called Nanansian PSC?
Nanansian PSC.
Yes.
Nanansian PSC was introduced by Daddy Lumba.
Oh, I see.
And the album was called Enijina Bikume. Enijina Bikume has a popular song. That was a Lumba production. He had a logo. Lumba had a logo. I had interest in Lumba's productions because my father used to sell spare parts in Accra, a shop opposite the MTTU to the MTTD. And when we left, the landlord moved us out. It was actually Lumba who was taking over. So the time I applied that route and I saw the shop, I said, Lumba need 2 years, So I had interest in his productions. And that was the place he used to use for the music thing, producing the people and distributing. He did Why Netene album, the second gospel album after Mesum Jesus, with Ekuya Sewa Bonsu.
Yes, I remember her.
At the time, Ekuya Sewa Bonsu was called, we used to call it Ekuya Kabobo. That's the ex-wife of KK Kabobo.
Yeah.
So, he did Kwabena Sunkwa. Kwabena Sunkwa is one artist who also lived in London. I think I don't know if you know Kwesi Obo. Kwesi Obo is the one who programmed Tan 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 Tan
Okay.
Tan 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 for Amachile Day. Yes, he hosted Kwesi Obo in London. That was when Kwesi Obo passed in London through Kwabena Sunkwa. It was Daddy Lumba who introduced him. Efiam Pofwa, the former or ex-wife of Keche Kwame Appiah. So they did Jijihun.
Yes.
Jijihun. No, they did Odofofro.
Yeah, man.
Listen to that song very well, and you see that Lumba has this soothing voice. That even when he did the song with a female voice, anytime Lumba came in, it sounded like Lumba was a female, as against Efiam Pofwa. He was Lumba's voice. So a lot of people were trying to copy. That's why a lot of people were singing falsetto, because Lumba naturally had this tiny voice. And then anytime we used to tease him, I'll mention some of his nicknames to you. Nicknames that he didn't even know himself. Behind him, we used to call him Girls SP because the girls loved his music. Anytime he performed, you see all the girls over him. So we called him Girls SP. And then his tone, he would come and say, me dasi bebre. You know, so that tone will give him that voice on a song. But people were trying to copy or emulate how he did it, so they ended up singing falsetto. That's what for Amponsa, that like KD, they were all singing neck voice because they all wanted to sound like Lumba. But naturally, Lumba has a small voice.
Exactly.
The Michael Jackson kind of
voice. Yes.
Voice. And it works. So, Odofofro, and then he did Selena Ollins. Selena Ollins, relatively not popular. It wasn't too successful. Then he started doing this collaboration. One album with you, Ofram Ponsa, was the one he did to introduce that one with Uhunchre. Then he did one with Pat Thomas. Demborax. So his last one was going to be OD4, which did not happen. I'm saying this so that tell me any other musician you know who has done this for his or her contemporaries.
Maybe I should ask Doreen Ando. She's here. Doreen, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, blessing.
Siwa, I greet you.
You're gone grey now. But still looking sharp. It's good to see you, my brother.
Small.
How you doing?
Good to see you too.
Good.
That's somebody's name, Mark. Good to see you. It's somebody's name. you know the person. It's good to see you.
Sir, I don't know the person.
It's a politician's name.
I know. He's my man.
You know, it's good to see you.
I won't talk about it.
You know that. So we're leaving you in the hands of Doreen.
Doreen, yeah.
Doreen Ando. I mean, Doreen, what's coming up on Cosmo today?
I think it just stands to reason that we should just continue the tribute to Daddy Lumba. So maybe Mark will stay, and if he doesn't, don't worry, we will still continue with the show. And I'm glad that he brought a lot of, the Daddy Lumba history to the show this morning on the Super Morning Show. We appreciate you, Mark.
Okay, Kojo, I want you to end with the Odofufro.
Let me tell you something that Lumba said to me. Indelible. I asked them, how do you take competition? Say, competition saying, I'm saying, a lot of people are doing well. Kojo Ntwi, Nana Champon, Nana Tufo. How do you take the competition? How do you see them? Then he said that Seven Kwana me and the whole Ghana me pemenyum na mutia and Lumba ne way. Senyor moi kamu humio.
That's true.
It's your mo na make me.
Yeah,
the guy was deep.
But he did really well with the new generation acts as well. Stone, Samini, he put Sark on as well, and a lot of these guys. And anyway,
on that note, thank you